Welcome to the reckoning. Welcome to the throne you built in silence. Welcome to the hour of your uprising, not with fireworks, not with noise, but with the avalanche of everything they never saw coming. This isn't a story for the loud ones, for the ones who parade their empty pride and plastic victories. No, this is for the one who stood still while the world screamed. This is for the one who watched, listened, bled quietly, and now walks into the room, not with a whisper, but with the raw, unfiltered collapse of every illusion. This is for you, because they mistook your quiet for cowardice. They mistook your silence for surrender. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't know, is that you were loading every second of silence with ammunition. You were building something behind those eyes. You weren't hiding, you were sharpening. And now you've returned with a mass grave, not of bodies, no, but of their lies, their fake smiles, their small thinking, their hollow superiority. You've buried everything they held as truth under the weight of your unshakable, undeniable, silent power. They thought they had, you figured out. They thought you were another background blur, the kind of person whose story never touches the surface. But you never needed to speak to be heard. You never needed a stage to take over the spotlight. You were the kind of storm that doesn't come with thunder, but when it hits, it levels everything. And now here you are, not rising from the ashes, but pulling them down into the grave they dug for you. Every truth you unleash is another nail in the coffin of their ignorance. And you keep proving them stupid, not with rage, but with results. You didn't come for their applause. You didn't wait for their validation. You were never looking for their approval, because deep down, you knew they were never your standard. Their opinions couldn't feed your fire. Their noise couldn't slow your grind. While they were busy talking, laughing, mocking, you were building, quietly, ruthlessly, strategically. You let them choke on their own overconfidence. You let them swim in circles in their shallow waters, while you dove deeper than they ever could. And now, when you speak, they can't look away. Because your truth isn't pretty, it isn't gentle, it burns. It cuts through their illusions like a blade soaked in everything they fear. Reality, accountability, power that doesn't ask for permission. You became the reminder that silence doesn't mean surrender, that the ones who say the least often hold the most dangerous truths. And now that you've spoken, now that you've dropped that grave of truth, they can't stop hearing you. Even in silence, your presence screams. They underestimated you. That was their first mistake. They laughed. That was their second. And they forgot to watch the quiet ones. That was their last. Because you're not the echo. You're the origin. You're not the shadow. You're the hand that controls the light. And every move you make is a slap in the face of every fool who thought they were smarter than you, better than you, more deserving than you. You never needed to outtalk them. You outworked them. You outlearned them. You outlived their relevance. And now they live in the prison of your progress. Your silence was your shield. It was your weapon. It was your strategy. While they wasted energy announcing every half step they took, you took the stairs. You didn't need the elevator. You built your own floors. And when the time came, you didn't just arrive, you erased. You erased every assumption, every lie, every underestimation. You replaced it with something they couldn't deny, results. Real, raw, untouchable truth. The kind of truth that doesn't just win, it humiliates everything fake in its path. This is what they don't teach you, that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one who says the least, because that person is watching, learning, storing, choosing. That person has the patience to endure being overlooked, and the power to become unforgettable. That person isn't performing, they're planning. And when they decide to act, it's never random, it's never emotional, it's calculated, precise, devastating. You became that person, not by accident, not by luck, but by choosing mastery over attention, discipline over drama, truth over popularity. They wanted to be seen. You wanted to matter. And now you do. Not because you begged for it, but because you became it. You became the reason they question themselves. You became the reminder that intelligence doesn't need to scream, that strength doesn't always need to show muscle, that dominance can exist in silence until it decides it's time to roar. And when it does, it echoes through the bones of the arrogant. You didn't come for revenge. You are revenge, without even needing to say the word. And let's be honest, they never stood a chance. Not because you had more resources, more friends, more fame, but because you had clarity. You knew what mattered. You knew what was real. You didn't chase every trend, every compliment, every temporary crown. You built something heavier than all of that. You built truth, layer by layer, moment by moment. While they performed for applause, you prepared for war. And now that it's begun, they are falling, one by one. Truth is crushing them, and you're not even trying. You're just walking in it, living in it, breathing it. That's the power of being underestimated. It gives you the quiet. It gives you the time. It gives you the freedom to build without interruption. And when the curtain falls and the truth is revealed, they realize too late that you weren't a background character. You were the author. And now you're writing endings for the same people who tried to write you out of the story. They never saw the truth coming because they were too busy chasing illusions. And now you keep proving them stupid. Every step, every move, every breath. They can't ignore you now, but it's too late. You've already become the storm. You've already rewritten the rules. You've already won. Not just in the game, but in the deeper war. The war of meaning. The war of identity. The war of reality. You carry the weight of 10,000 silent nights, 10,000 ignored moments, 10,000 times you swallowed your pride and chose patience, and now it's their pride on the chopping block. And you're not even gloating, because you don't need to. The results speak, the silence screams, the truth buries. Let them scramble, let them deny, let them pretend they always believed in you. You know the truth, and that's all you ever needed. You were quiet, but now the grave is full, and it's not just a grave for their lies. It's a grave for who you used to be, the small version, the silent version, the one who thought you needed to prove anything. That version is gone, buried, and in its place, a monster of purpose, a force of reckoning, a living, breathing mass of truth that doesn't ask. It doesn't wait. It simply destroys what is fake and rewards what is real. So stay quiet if you want, or speak if it's time. Either way, you own the air now. You've taken the ground. They just don't know it yet. And when they finally do, when they finally feel the weight of everything you became in silence, it'll be too late for them, because you'll already be gone. On to the next level, the next truth, the next grave for the next batch of fools who mistake your peace for weakness. They won't learn, but you don't need them to, because you keep proving them stupid just by being you. But let's dig deeper, because this isn't just about revenge. This isn't about proving them wrong and walking away with a smug grin. Number, this is bigger. This is deeper. This is about building something so undeniable, so unshakable, so real, that even the universe has to step aside and let you pass. This is about legacy. Not the kind carved on tombstones, but the kind etched into reality, with every breath you take, every move you make, every time you choose not to quit. Because when you were quiet, you weren't weak, you weren't passive. You were calculating. You were reprogramming your brain. You were detoxing from their poison. You were rising from the inside out. You were reforging yourself into something they've never seen before. Something they couldn't see because they didn't know how to look past the noise. They only know how to recognize volume, not value. And that's why they'll never see it coming, until it's too late. You turned your back on the circus. You walked away from the fake applause, the shallow praise, the desperate clapping of people who don't even know who they are. You saw through it all. You chose isolation when they chased attention. You chose grit when they begged for comfort. You chose to stand in your silence, to burn in your solitude. And from that pain, you forged something indestructible. A voice that doesn't tremble, a presence that doesn't shrink, a truth that kills illusions on sight. And when you dropped that truth, you didn't just speak it, you cut with it, you exposed the weak, you shattered the fake. You turned every room into a courtroom, and you dropped evidence they couldn't argue with. You walked in like a blade wrapped in calm, and every word you spoke tore down the towers of lies they built to feel tall. You didn't need volume, you had violence in your stillness. And that kind of energy, that kind of truth, it doesn't need permission. It owns whatever it touches. You weren't the loudest, but you were the last one standing, because you weren't trying to survive in their world. You were building your own, one layer at a time. While they spent their energy climbing ladders to nowhere, you dug deep, painful, brutal trenches of truth. And when they finally realized where you were, they were already beneath you, looking up, confused, scared, jealous, but too damn late. Now, they wonder how you made it, how you kept going, how you turned the silence into a weapon. But they'll never understand, because they never paid the price. They never sat in the darkness long enough. They never swallowed their pride, their fear, their ego. You did. And that's why you earn the kind of power that doesn't ask for recognition. It demands respect by simply existing. And you keep proving them stupid. Not because you talk down, not because you brag, but because you exist. Your presence is their humiliation. Your work ethic is their insult. Your consistency is their exposure. Because every time you rise, they realize just how low they aimed. Every time you move, they see how still they've been. Every time you win, they see the mirror they've been avoiding, the reflection of their mediocrity standing beside your greatness. But you don't need to destroy them. You already did. The moment you chose not to become them, you could have played the game. You could have blended in. You could have worn the mask and said the right things and earned their fake acceptance. But you chose truth. You chose to be hated for who you are rather than loved for who you're not. And that choice, that bold, lonely, world-shattering choice, turned you into something rare, something real, something they can't control, can't manipulate, can't bend, can't ignore. You don't walk like them anymore. You move differently because you carry weight. You carry stories they couldn't survive. You carry nights they would have collapsed under. You carry a fire that didn't start in comfort. It started in rejection, in betrayal, in being overlooked, doubted, mocked, erased. But instead of dying there, you expanded, you evolved, you became. And now your silence echoes louder than their screams. Let them talk, let them laugh, let them pretend they don't see you. That's their comfort, their illusion, their defense mechanism. But truth doesn't need an audience. Truth doesn't need approval. It just is. And every time you take another step, they feel it in their gut, in their pride, in their insecurity, because your existence reminds them they bet against the wrong one, and it eats them alive. Let them call you arrogant. Let them call you cold. Let them call you whatever makes them feel safer, because they have to label what they fear. And make no mistake, they fear you. They fear your mind, your discipline, your focus. They fear that you didn't need to announce your comeback. You became your comeback. You didn't broadcast your grind. You lived it. And now, with every breath you take, you bury another lie they told themselves. Because you weren't lucky. You weren't gifted. You were relentless. And they'll never understand that, because they don't know what it's like to keep showing up when no one claps. They don't know what it's like to build in the dark, to cry in silence, to bleed in secret, and still not quit. They don't know what it's like to break and rebuild and break again and still come back harder. But you do. You know every scar, every betrayal, every closed door, every fake friend, every failure. And now you wear it like armor. Now you move like a shadow, untouchable, unshaken, undeniable, because you were quiet until you dropped a mass grave of truth. And now they want to rewrite history. They want to say they always saw the potential, that they always believed, that they knew you had it in you. But you know the truth, and the truth is this: they saw you and they ignored you. They saw you and they laughed. They saw you and they hoped you'd stay small, because your growth threatened their comfort. Your rise shattered their excuses, and now they're choking on the silence they forced you into. So don't slow down. Don't explain. Don't soften your step. Let your truth be heavy. Let your presence be painful to those who never believed in you, because that pain, that discomfort, that's their punishment. You don't need to lift a finger. Just keep being who you are. Keep moving. Keep growing. Keep proving them stupid. Without even trying, they'll watch. They'll whisper. They'll shrink. And you'll ascend, not because of them, but in spite of them. Because you chose something they never could, depth. You chose to face yourself, to conquer yourself. And now, no one can touch you, because the battlefield was never external. The war was always internal, and you won, quietly, devastatingly, completely. You dropped a mass grave of truth, and now the world can't unsee you, can't unhear you, can't undo you. And no matter what they say next, remember this: you didn't just survive their silence, you weaponized it, and you keep proving them stupid every time you don't quit. And now, they stand frozen in the aftermath, blinking through the dust, confused by the collapse they never thought possible. They try to piece it together, trying to figure out when it happened, how it happened, but they don't realize it was happening the entire time. Every time they laughed behind your back, every time they whispered doubts like spells, every time they measured your worth by their shallow standards. You were stacking, you were sharpening, you were forging something so pure, so undeniable, it didn't need a single soul's validation to ignite. You weren't quiet because you had nothing to say. You were quiet because you were becoming something they could never understand. You weren't absent. You were underground. And every second of that silence was strategy. Every overlooked moment was fuel. Every dismissal was a brick in the monument you now stand on. They didn't just underestimate you, they hand-built the very platform you now tower from. This is where your silence ends, not with noise, but with domination. Not with speeches, but with presence. Because now you walk into rooms and they flinch. Not because you say anything, but because you don't need to. You became the tension. You became the weight. The energy shifts when you speak. The air thickens when you breathe. And you didn't ask for it. You earned it. In fire, in blood, in nights they never saw and couldn't survive. You keep proving them stupid every time you choose to keep going. Every time you show up again, sharper, stronger, colder. You don't need to scream, because your actions whisper in a language only winners understand. And every time they think you're done, that you've peaked, that you finally slowed down, you prove once again that you were just warming up, that you haven't even started yet. Because the truth is, you are the storm after the silence. You are the consequence of doubt, the punishment for small thinking, the reality they tried to escape but couldn't outrun. You are the final chapter they didn't want to read, because it ends with you on top and then buried under the weight of everything they laughed at. And the beauty? You're still calm, still collected, still focused. Because you didn't rise out of rage, you rose out of clarity. You didn't win to be seen, you won to be free. And now you move with the kind of freedom that terrifies people who still live for the applause. You walk past them and they shrink, not because you hurt them, but because your presence reminds them that they never mattered to your process. They were never the obstacle. They were never the challenge. They were just background noise. And now they know it. Now they feel it. Every time your name is mentioned in rooms they swore you'd never enter. Every time your success becomes a topic in circles that used to mock you. Every time your silence echoes louder than their shouts. You've turned every room into a mirror, and they don't like what they see, because what they see is you, ascended, unbothered, unreachable. You dropped a mass grave of truth, and truth doesn't negotiate. It doesn't apologize. It doesn't retreat. It buries. And now your every move digs deeper into the illusion they built around you. An illusion that told them you were small, that you were soft, that you were someone who would break before you bent. But they didn't know what you were made of. They never asked. They never cared. And now, they wish they had. But that's not your problem, because you didn't come to be liked. You didn't come to be understood. You came to become. And you did. Now you're walking proof that silence isn't weakness. It's warfare. That being underestimated is not a curse, it's a gift. That every doubt is just another mile in your momentum. And now you've created something they can't fake, can't copy, can't kill. Authentic power. The kind that doesn't rise with trends. The kind that doesn't fall with opinions. The kind that doesn't speak just to be heard. It speaks to end all lies. So let them talk. Let them try to rewrite your story. Let them dig through the past looking for reasons why you don't deserve what you have. Let them scream into the void about how it's unfair. That's what powerless people do. They scream. But you just keep proving them stupid, without effort, without noise, without permission. Because when it's real, you don't need to explain. You just keep moving. You just keep building. You just keep becoming. And the grave of truth behind you, that's not just for them. It's for the old you. The version they could push around. The version that kept the peace instead of speaking truth. The version that thought being quiet was a weakness instead of a weapon. That version is dead, buried, gone. And what rose in its place, what stands in its place, is a storm of intelligence, a storm of purpose, a storm of clarity so sharp it cuts everything false to pieces. And here's the final truth, the one they fear most. You were never chasing them. You were outrunning yourself. And now that you've caught the truth, there's nothing left to prove, just victories left to collect, just graves left to drop.